evening. Today's video is on another adventure game from New Adventure Systems for the Spectrum by S.Robert Speel. This one is a dungeon crawler and it's called the Warrior Mage System, which is why I'm dressed as both a warrior in my shining armour and sword and mage with my magic spells. In the Warrior Mage System, it's a modular system. You type in part 1, which is monsters and spells, and you move around the maze. And that's playable and that's enjoyable. You then add in high resolution graphics. You then add in carnivorous plants. You then add in magic potions and alternative victory conditions. And finally, you add in traps and pits and pools and things of that nature. The final part of the game, which we're not covering today, is the lower reaches, an extra level of difficulty. So, shall we get ready to cast our spells and slay some monsters? So, this is Warrior Mage. The Warrior Mage System, it starts out with the essential parts of the game, which is monsters and spells, setting up the maze and all the fighting routines. After you get it set up, you've got a couple of minutes for it to be in effect. You've got, how many pages have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 9 pages of listening to type in part 1. The aim of the game to start with, you choose a difficulty level and you have a certain amount of gold to collect. And you have 6 spells, which can be used. And if you meet your goal and escape from the dungeon, you get your prize. 6 types of weapons. Swords are the easiest to hit with and therefore the best. Daggers don't miss often but don't do much damage. Axes are useful all-round weapons. Clubs and maces do the most damage but are very hard to hit with. However, they can't be blunted, so they're useful with armoured warriors. And spikes, which are very unreliable as a last-ditch weapon. 6 monsters, of which the saber-tooth is the toughest. Direwolves and Hellcats are strong. Snakes are weak, but their bites are lethal, or can be lethal, a couple of them. Armadillos have tough shells, which can blunt edged weapons, but they're not very good at biting you. And giant rats are the weakest. You can also rest. You have a status command, you can move around. And you have 4 magic points to start with. 5 spells, and you occasionally may find a size stone which restores 1 or 2 of your energy. Resistance starts at 10. Once it reaches 0, you are dead. However, if it's 0.1, you're still alive. For the moment now, we are now generating a maze. You always start off with 4 exits and a stairway. The stairway is the way you escape from. It does recommend that you draw a map. So I've got level 1, nice and easy. Need to find 30 gold. I'm in the start room and there is an axe. You always start with 1 weapon. By running stat, S-T-A-T, you find out I started with a sword, also have an axe. Resistance is 10, and now I'm going to head west. End of a passage. It generates the maze title based on various factors in a huge, massive string. Let's take an axe. Let's move around a bit more. Let's go west, let's go north. We have a sword, so it's nice and simple. I can't spell sword. Nice and simple. Move around a maze. Looking for action. And we have our first monster, which is a Direwolf. I'm going to use the sword. I hit it quite hard, and it bites me back. So I'm going to hit it back with my sword, and I've killed it, and picked up 6 crowns. So I've lost 4 resistance points. Have a bit of a rest. That's okay. Back up to 8. 2 swords, 2 axes, weapons do break, so you've got to be careful. Now, I've not taken a map so far, so I'm rather lazy. There's a spike, might as well take it, could come in handy. If you have no weapons, you can just punch the monsters to death or try to. We have an axe. Have another rest. Resting is nice and simple. Resting is free. We can cast a spell to heal as well, but that costs resistance, costs magic energy. Here we're just moving around the maze. It moves quite nice and simple. It moves smoothly. Back at the start, so I don't want to get lost. There is a teleport spell to... Ooh, I've met a Hellcat, which is fairly strong. I'm going to use my sword to fight it. I hit it quite hard, but it's bit me. Hit it with the sword again. Again, I hit it quite hard. The amount of damage you do is not quite indicated, but it tells you. Gives you a guide with the words rather than the numbers. So I've just healed myself, and I've killed a Hellcat, and I've got 21 crowns. Excellent. I'm only 3 crowns short of victory, which is nice. This is level 1. This is the easiest level. There are 4 levels. Each level you go up, you're going to have an extra 30. Gold. So, I've not got enough to leave yet. So let's head south. At the T junction. The goal here is to get the gold. Here is some dagger. Daggers are easy to hit with, don't do much damage. You can carry 10 items at once. You sort the items in an array, which is all rather interesting. Take mace, I've got loads of weapons now. End of a passage, there's a club. Clubs and maces are blunt, which are useful against heavily armoured monsters such as the Armadillo. So I've got too much stuff now. Can't carry any more, which is fine. So don't try and pick up daggers. A room with lots of we have a dagger. We have a giant rat. So I use the spike against the giant rat. We both miss each other, just for a bit of variety. I hit very hard and kill the giant rat, which is nice. It's got no treasure though. Dead end, that's no good. We found an axe, which is nice. We beat an Armadillo! Crunchy on the outside, smooth on the inside. I hit it weakly. It tries to it's bitten me. Hit it again. It's blunted my sword, so I've thrown it away. Let's switch to the mace. My mace is now broken. Let's switch to using a club. And I miss. Clubs are hard to hit with. I cast a disarm spell. What the disarm spell does, it removes the Armadillo's armour, which is nice. And unfortunately, the Armadillo, although it does not bite me very hard, has killed me. So I've now moved on to level 2. This is the adding of the high resolution images. So we'll skip through various adventures. This time we get pictures of a viper, which you can use. So basically you get pictures for the 6 monsters. Plus, if you win, you get a picture of your city. So the aim of the game is you are a warrior mage. This is your graduation quest or some such thing. And you need to do this quest and then return to your city in triumph. This is a saber tooth, which is really rather nicely drawn. So I'm going to use an axe against the saber tooth. It's bitten me and I've killed it and got 4 gold pieces. And now here is a direwolf. Direwolves are not as strong as the saber tooth. You have a fear spell, which costs 2 points to cast, and the saber wolf is immune to it. So I'm going to try and kill the direwolf with my sword. And I've done it and got 8 gold pieces. There's another sword. We like swords. Swords are the best one. Now it's an Armadillo. And we get a nice drawing of the Armadillo, crunchy on the outside, smooth on the inside. Which is rather jolly. Remember, the Armadillo has armour. I disarmed it. It's now weaker. It's biting me a bit, so I'm going to try and kill it with my sword. And I hit a perfect blow. We now switch now. There's a giant rat now, which is the weakest of the enemies. And the giant rat, I was using the spike just for a laugh. It's bitten me. Now there's the viper. And finally, here's the last monster. This is the Hellcat, which is a tough one. Nice drawing of a cat, but because it's the Hellcat, it's covered in spikes. Let's try and kill that with a sword. This is a combination of multiple playthroughs, not all the same, because I've died multiple times, just to try and show you the nice pictures. But in this playthrough, I've got 19 gold, killed 2 monsters. I'm now going to cast a spell. I'm going to cast the teleport spell. It takes me back to the start. Let's move forward a little bit further. There's another armadillo, and we'll show you more how the fighting works with armadillos, because they are tricky beasts. If you use a sword, chances are you may do full damage, or it may just blunt it and it's broken. So trying to use the club. I've broken the club, that's very bad luck. Let's try and spike it. I haven't got a spike. So the sword worked at that point, but didn't do a lot of damage. And now it's broken, which is no good. The armadillos are quite tough on your weapons. So now I'm going to cast a strength spell to heal myself. Excellent work. Use back to the sword. And I haven't got any swords left. Switch to the axe again. I'm running through axes here. And I'm going to try and punch the armadillo to death. Have I got a club? No. And the armadillo killed me. Which is not so good. So we're now moving on to the next edition number 2, which is adding carnivorous plants. It also adds a different goal. There are a choice of 2 goals. This goal is, rather than gold, I've got to kill 5 monsters and escape. Because I'm going to kill monsters, it starts me off with an extra weapon. We also add 2 new obstacles, one of which is Strangle Moss, which is fine on its own, but if you rest, it wakes up and grabs you. The only way out of it is either to cast a weed kill spell, teleport away with a teleport spell, or feed it wooden items and hope it dies. Here I've killed an armadillo and picked up a size stone. Got one lot of psychic energy, which is nice. The other type of plant is chokeweed. And what chokeweed does, it blocks access, and you've got to cut it with an edge weapon, sword, axe, or dagger. And it grows throughout the dungeon. Each time you die and you... Oh, I've won! I killed 5 monsters and escaped. Back to my home city. There was a slight error in the drawing due to me putting 4 instead of 5. So, sadly, one of the towers is slightly offset, and so is the floor. But it's rather splendid. When you replay a game in the system, the objects you left behind are there. If you die, you leave behind up to 5 objects. That was carnivorous plants. We're now switching to magic potions. So we're going to fight this Hellcat in various ways. We've got that nice high resolution image of this Hellcat. I'm going to cast my strength spell to heal myself. It's all bitey. And I'm going to cast the summon sword spell, which gives you a free sword, as if by magic, which you can use if you haven't got any weapons. I've now killed it and taken its hoard of 17 crowns and a potion. You have to pick up the potion first before you can drink it. Potions have one of 3 effects. In this case, it can poison you, it can heal you, or it can attract a wandering monster. So I'm going to have a rest. Resting gives a risk of being attacked by the... what's it called? The Strangle Moss. So there's the chokeweed blocking the passage to the south. By moving south, you'll cut the chokeweed, use a sword, and it can be fine, or maybe your sword will break in the process. You can also use a dagger or an axe. Again, we fight a nice saber-toothed tiger. The high-res drawings are rather splendid. The encoding is done in the same way as the adventure system he did earlier, in an earlier video, which was all kinds of strange characters that are then decoded into numbers, which are an absolute pain to type in. So this is us fighting this saber-tooth. And it's killed me again. So we're now going to move on to the last edition. Which is traps and pits. So here, a room may contain a pit, or it could be a trap in which rocks fall on your head. And there are also pools of water. So here again, we're back to finding 60 gold. I've won at the easiest level, so I'm moving up to level 2. take the club, and let's potter around here and see how we're getting on. So the pool rooms are tricky because there are various ways to cross the pool. You can swim, go across a ledge, you can use a raft. There also might be a bridge, all of which have pros and cons. So there's an awful lot of game in here. And it is, I must say, rather challenging. Adding traps and pits was 3 pages, by the way. Adding magic potions was 2 pages. Adding carnivorous plants was 3 pages. Adding the pictures was 2 pages. The biggest addition at the end is for the lower reaches, which we'll be looking at in a future video. So here I've fallen into a pit. I've not died though. However, I'm at half strength, which is not so good. So however, I found a potion though. So potions have one of 3 effects. They heal you. And what's interesting, if you're already at full strength when you drink a potion, you get super strength, as in resistance is 11, which is nice. Axes are now useful for chopping chopweed. Clubs, which are rather rubbish, and spikes are made of wood. And things made of wood are useful for feeding the moss. Because they can feed the moss things of wood and then it'll kill it, hopefully. Here I've got a paddle. Paddles are useful for crossing the lakes. Here's a viper we need to fight. I use my sword. And I killed the viper, which is nice. So I have a bit of a rest. Unfortunately, the Strangle Moss has grown. It's now grabbed me. You can't escape. I'm going to feed it now with a spike. And unfortunately, it's got stronger. I'll feed it again with a club. And it's killed it. Otherwise, I have to cast a spell with it, or I'm stuck and it will eat me alive. So that was parts 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 of the Warrior Mage System. You'll note there that I haven't actually found a pool. Because the maze is randomly generated, you don't always get all the items in a nice clear run. Also, I kept dying. I was recording footage for part 6, which is typed in, either a future video or a stream when I try and complete it online. I spent about an hour and a half and I never got anywhere near the lower reaches. It's a really, really nice way of doing it. You get the core game and then you add bits on, so you're not faced with 40 pages, you have to type it all in at once. The tactics are interesting. The weapons have different effects. The monsters have different effects. They're not just this one is bigger, this one is smaller. Armadillos are hard to hit, don't do much damage. Snakes are quite weak, but do a lot of damage. There are tactics again crossing the pools. Again, if you're carrying lots of equipment, your bridge is more likely to break. If you're crossing a ledge, you're likely to lose your money. If you're swimming, you have to lose heavy equipment such as axes and clubs. So you always have to be aware of what's going on. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again in the future.